Welcome to the Movies Explained in English. Today I brought you another classic romantic Hindi movie named Dilwale Dulhaniya Lejayenge, shortly famous as DDLJ. The movie was released in 1995 but still is most talked about movie. Chaudhary Baldev Singh has been living in London with his wife Lajo and two daughters, Simran and Chutki. Despite having lived overseas for more than 2 decades, he still considers Punjab to be home. Simran, who is going to graduate from high school, has started thinking about her future and a possible boyfriend in her life. But she hasn't found anyone yet. Raj Malhotra is seen winning at various male sports such as rugby, bowling, swimming, and so on. He realizes he is late for his graduation ceremony as he wakes up on a pool raft. He walks in, panting, next to his pals, just as they are announcing that one of the candidates will not be receiving this degree this time. Raj laughs till he realizes he is the one. Raj's father, wealthy Dharambir Malhotra, wants him to start working for him right away, but Raj successfully manipulates him into giving him a month off first. The next day, Chaudhary receives a letter from his old Punjabi buddy Ajit, who informs him that now that Simran is an adult, it is time for her to marry Kuljit, as the two decided when they were born. Simran is alarmed, but Chaudhary is unconcerned. After graduation, her friends plan to travel around Europe by train, and she urgently wants to join but knows her father will disagree. Raj and his friends are planning the same type of excursion. Raj and his friends drive up beside Chaudhary as he closes his store for the night, begging for beer. The store is now closed, he says stiffly. Raj persuades Chaudhary that he is suffering from a headache and needs aspirin, appealing for assistance from a fellow Indian. Then he takes the money for the beverage and flees, dropping the aspirin down with it. Chaudhary is enraged by the child who lacks honor. Rather than integrating, he has always demanded that his wife and daughters follow Indian traditions. The women obey in front of him, but he has no idea what happens while he is not at home. Wearing miniskirts, listening to rock music, dancing, and so on. Simran is dressed in traditional garments and praying beautifully before a domestic altar that next day. She begs him to let her travel for a month of my own life before marrying a man she's never met. Finally, he agrees. Raj and Simran are both late for the train, and Raj claims that they are locked in the compartment. To her chagrin, he tries to flirt with her by using one line after another. They meet in Paris at a party, where Raj uses the same lines to flirt with Simran's friend. Simran assumes he's lying when he boasts about his piano skills and introduces him as a guest player. He pretends ashamed, fumbles around on the piano like a beginner, then plays it wonderfully and does a song and dance routine. She is humiliated as a result of her actions. The next day, they reunite and he apologizes with a flower, which suddenly squirts water in her face. Later, he causes her to be late for the train by delaying her at a store. Simran refuses to travel with Raj. But when she gets pulled over by the cops for hitchhiking, he pulls over and pretends she is his wife, cuddling her all the way. She is enraged as the cops leave, but he reminds out that it was not his idea. They ride together until the rental car breaks down and she apologizes. He begs shelter from a nearby house when she is exhausted from walking. When she discovers there is only one room, she flees in rage, figuring it was all a ruse. He later apologizes for finding her in a drafty barn. As the snow begins to fall, he drinks some cognac to keep warm. When he wakes up, he finds her roaring drunk and acting erratically, and he chases her all over the town before a few drinks. Raz dupes her into believing they made love when she wakes up in the farmhouse bedroom with clothes all about. She burst out laughing and he claims it was a joke, but she doesn't believe him. Finally, he needs to yell at her to persuade her that an Indian man would never betray the honor of an Indian woman. She cries as she hugs him and expresses her relief. She notices a church letter that morning and insists on seeing it. When he turns to face her, he sees her kneeling in prayer and the image hits him. He inquires as to what she prayed for, but she refuses to tell him. Raz dashes back into the chapel, praying that her request will be granted. He relates a dream, identical to hers at the start, about a prospective woman in his future as they wait to change trains. She's taken aback by how similar they are, but when he asks whether she's ever considered it, she says that her wedding has already been planned. They meet on a breeze after they have rejoined the group, and he declares his undying love for her. He bursts out laughing and says it was a joke, which stuns her. However, he goes on to inquire if she would still marry her fiancé if she fell in love with someone else. She remains silent until the train horn sounds, at which point she turns to leave. They part at the railway station in London after Raz declines a wedding invitation. She realizes she has fallen for him as she watches him walk away, and she sees his face everywhere on the way home. Raz imagines her escorting him back to his house. Simran tells her mom about her feelings that night. Unfortunately, her father hears about it and becomes enraged. He decides to collect his belongings and fly to India right now. Raz's father advises him to pursue her. When the family arrives in Punjab, Kuljit emerges from the hunt as a man's man, who is a little too focused on himself, and Simran remains despondent. Simran's mother wants her to be happy, but she understands that women are not allowed to make those decisions. Simran is asked to put her feelings for Raz aside for the sake of family. Simran accepts the proposal and agrees to marry him. Simran goes to the fields early one morning and Raz emerges. She asks him to whisk her away and elope with her. He declines, preferring to gain her father's approval instead. He asks her to have faith in him and to treat them as strangers when they meet next. Raz arranges for her fiancé Kuljit to be captured while hunting and then released personally, gaining his appreciation. He informs Kuljit that he is on the lookout for a factory location. Kuljit sends him home to his family where Priti, Kuljit's sister, is smitten. Raz attends a gathering with both families, delighting Chutki, Lajo and others, but learns that Simran's father is aware of his beer buying joke. He continues to win the hearts of ladies, But getting on Chaudhary's good side appears impossible. Raj would marry Preeti, according to Kuljit's father. Unfortunately, Raj's father shows there and agrees to the marriage, figuring she is his ideal bride. He then needs to fabricate a narrative to postpone the wedding. Lajo spots Simran and Raj together and grabs her on jewels, pleading with him to take her away. Raj once again refuses to do the deplorable thing. He finally makes progress with Simran's father. Simran's grandmother becomes ill and expresses her desire to see Simran marry. Therefore, the wedding is rescheduled for the next day. Raj's father even advises him to take Simran and elope. Raj defers to his father in making the preparations, although he hasn't made up his mind. When Simran is summoned to the Mehendi ceremony, she is sobbing over a photo from their Europe vacation. It flies out the window and lands at Chaudhary's feet, proving that Raj is a phony and Simran is truly in love with him. When Raj arrives, Chaudhary punches him in the face, but Raj does not protect himself. Simran runs into his arms, pleading with him to take her away as she pleaded. Raj gives a long lecture about how elders are the greatest people to make decisions for children and that they would always do what is best. He concedes that he has failed to capture Chaudhary's heart and that Chaudhary is correct if Kuljit will make her a better spouse. Simran's hand is returned to her father by him. Raj departs and arrives at the station to find his father. His father returns to the house to try to find a solution to the problem. While he's gone, Kuljit and his pals arrive and begin abusing Raj. When Raj's father returns, he tries to interfere and is attacked by the goons. Raj emerges from the midst of a heap of bodies, holding Kuljit's rifle. He threatens Kuljit, then drops the rifle and beats them all up with just his body. Someone rushes to Chaudhary and Ajit's residence, pleading with them to end the conflict at the station before someone is killed. When Lajo watches them go, he dashes to the station to bring Simran with him. Raj just pulls back in time to avoid striking Chaudhary as the fathers come and take Raj of Kuljit. He reluctantly boards the train with his father, but when he returns his gaze to Chaudhary, he notices Simran waiting nearby. Simran's mother tries to push her forward, but Chaudhary grabs her hand and refuses to let go. She begs him to let her go, but he just stares at Raj, who meets his gaze the entire time. Finally, he releases her, claiming that no one will love her as much as Raj. She dashes towards the train and Raj, just as he did when they first met, reaches out and pulls her on.